Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz, your host of the Raiders Report, and we got some winners and losers to discuss after the Las Vegas Raiders' monumental 20-16 win over the Cleveland Browns. And here's the thing, man. I know that we got a big-time win, but I think as adults, I think as fans, when you sit down with your friends, family, I think you always got to be able to compare things where, yeah, there was a lot of good. There was some bad as well. So we're going to have those discussions here of which players played well, and hopefully the players that see themselves on this show that's a loser, they motivate themselves to make sure that they're a winner next week. Now, here's the thing, man. I woke up feeling like a winner today, and I love waking up on a Raiders game day win. I mean, there is nothing better out there. You walk into Monday work. I saw the Raiders posted, the whole A.J. Cole thing walking into work. The Mets just freaking won. I'll tell you what, I am a happy person right now. But if you woke up feeling like a winner today, make sure you click that like button. So here we go. We're going to go from the winners on defense to losers on defense to winners on offense, to the losers on the offensive side of the football as well. And I have them ranked from 5 all the way down to 1. 5 is the 5th biggest winner. 1 is the biggest winner. Let's go to number 5 here. I'm going to bring up Tyree Wilson. And you got to give Wilson his flowers here, and you got to give him a lot of credit out there. He didn't fill up the stat sheet. Only 1 tackle in this game. But, this is the prime example of you can't just look at the box score. You got to go turn on the tape. You got to go watch it because Wilson was looking pretty damn good, man. I mean, that jump looked solid. He was able to get off the ball. When you're losing Maxx Crosby, when you don't have Malcolm Koonce, we have been waiting for Tyree Wilson to kind of go ahead and take that next step. I thought he did a good job. 5 total pressures here. Hit the quarterback twice. Hurried him up 3 times. Really good stuff out of there out of Tyree Wilson. He also was the highest graded PFF player on the Raiders this past week. Let's go to number 4 here. It's Christian Wilkins, the interior defensive tackle, and another player. 53 total snaps played, had a 78.6 overall PFF grade. But what I loved out of it was the energy and him bringing a lot. And, one thing that might not get a lot of discussion is Wilkins also played a little bit of special teams because they needed him to do that. The fact that he signed a 4-year, $110 million contract and he's willing to do that, you need those type of guys. And Antonio Pierce kind of spoke about it on Monday to really change this from being a bad franchise to taking that to the next level. I think also one of the biggest plays of the game was Wilkins when he beat the center and then Deshaun Watson fires a deep ball down the field to Amari Cooper, ends up being what would have been a 75-plus yard touchdown. But Wilkins drew a hold there. And when Maxx isn't on the field, that's where he gets a lot of that attention. Maxx gets a lot of the attention. But for Christian Wilkins, Adam Butler, we'll talk about him here in a moment. Those 2 guys deserve a lot of credit for how well that Raiders defense played, especially on the interior. I don't know if anybody saw this, but it was snowing in Las Vegas yesterday. And some of y'all are like, wait, really? Well, it was Charles Snowden because it was a good showing for this guy right here. I mean, this was a player that we didn't even know if he was going to end up making the roster, and quite frankly, didn't make the 53-man roster, was on the practice squad, but because of the Malcolm Koonce injury, has kind of elevated himself and taken his game, I thought, to the next level. He had a huge sack, the game-closing sack where he was chasing down Deshaun Watson, 3 quarterback hits on top of that. The reason why I have him as a bigger winner than Tyree Wilson and that I have a bigger winner than Christian Wilkins is because it's not expected out of Snowden. And we've been waiting for that other player at edge. We thought maybe it was going to be Janarius Robinson. Janarius Robinson deserves his flowers too. But overall, when you watch the tape, Charles Snowden, another big play that, again, it's early on in that drive where it's like the very, very final drive. He gets his hand up, swats down the ball into Deshaun Watson, which then forces a very long 3rd and, I want to say, 16 after a bad snap. Charles Snowden made big-time plays when it really mattered for the Raiders. Let's go to here, number 2. And I'm going to say this, and I've been saying it for a long time. The Raiders need to extend Robert Spillane. Robert Spillane is one of the best linebackers in the National Football League, and quite frankly, really maybe the only guy on this team that I have confidence in that can make a tackle when it comes to it. He led the team in tackles yesterday with 12. I don't know if he's missed a snap this entire season on the defensive side of the football. And, it gets brought up a lot when we talk about Maxx because it's more impressive for a defensive end like Crosby to do it compared to a guy like Robert Spillane. But Spillane has also been able to take his game in the coverage standpoint a lot to a whole nother level. On top of that, even, and Antonio Pierce spoke about this on Monday, you could see how giddy he was. You could see how happy he was talking about Spillane, that he's a middle linebacker, but he's also calling all the plays. He's making sure that everybody is in the right position. And for the amount of different players that had to play in that game against Cleveland, for the amount of different personnel, AP and Patrick Graham are really relying on their middle linebacker, Robert Spillane, who's rocking that green dot for a reason. And because of all those reasons, I named him as the second biggest winner. AP, Telesco, Delaney. Let's get this guy under contract. He deserves a few more years here in the silver and black. So here's going to be the pinned comment on today's show. And you could look at a lot of different players on that defensive side of the football. There's no doubt about it. But you're about to get hit with a YouTube ad break. While that ad is playing, I want you to scroll on down and give me your answer of who you thought the biggest winner on defense was against the Browns. After this ad break, I'm going to tell you who it was. To me, the biggest winner on the Raiders defense in this game, I'm going to go with Isaiah Pola-Mao. He gets his first NFL start, filling in for Marcus Epps, a team captain, filling in for somebody that, quite frankly, was one of the better defenders on this team. And as a UDFA player, somebody who barely made the roster back in 2022, his first chance that he gets, he goes out there and he did his freaking thing, man. 6 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 PBU and a sack. I mean, that is lighting up a stat sheet. But then again, it's not just filling up that stat sheet. It's everything that the Raiders asked him to do. He had a 78.2 overall PFF grade, and maybe one of the biggest plays, two maybe of the biggest plays. I know the picture here shown, Amari Cooper needs to catch that football, but Isaiah Pola-Mao hit Cooper right away, ball pops up in the air, lands in Trevon Merrick's hands, and I think he felt the footsteps there a little bit, but for Pola-Mao, they can also use him as a box safety. They're lining them up almost as a linebacker. His versatility is incredible, and then this play right here. This is one of the biggest plays that I hope Raider Nation remembers, where Deshaun Watson throws the ball deep down the field, and if Pola-Mao's not there, which he was the only person back in coverage, like if you remember, the Raiders had like 10 guys on the line of scrimmage, and they brought an all-out blitz. Watson threw one up in the air, and like Isaiah had to do, he had to play center field a little bit. The ball lands in the hands of the receiver, but Pola-Mao does a great job knocking it out and forcing them to have to punt it away, really flipped the field there for the Raiders, and it kept a lot of the momentum on our side. Because of the situation, Isaiah Pola-Mao was the biggest winner on defense, and I'm excited to see what that young man could do, because that's one player, I said it before, he's getting better and better and better and better. He wants to make his own legacy. He doesn't want to live in the shadow of his cousin, or maybe it's his uncle Troy Polamalu. No matter what, though, comes from a very good family of a lot of talented defensive backs here. I also want to give some shout-outs here to some honorable mentions, because the defense deserved it. I don't know if the offense deserved it nearly as much. Adam Butler is continuously the most underappreciated player, I think, that we have on our defense, and I'm kind of kicking myself in the ass for not putting him in the top 5, but I wanted to give Wilkins some love. I wanted to give Snowden some love. Tyree Wilson deserved that love. Trevon Merrick had a big pick, but he also, I think, did a good job in coverage yesterday. Jacorian Bennett's been putting up some special numbers. We're going to talk about him more tomorrow. Make sure you're tuned into the Raiders Report on that. And then, AJ Cole, defense/special teams, for him to have 4 punts, 232 total yards, I mean, he was really pinning them back and really helping out this team, especially for a struggling offense, and especially putting their struggling offense in not good situations. So AJ Cole, I love you, man. Let's go to the losers here on the defensive side of the football. I'll try to go through these a little bit quicker. Amari Burney, he just really struggling with tackling right now, getting out of his assignments, only 1 tackle against Cleveland. You want to see a better version out of him. Good athlete, no doubt about it. I mean, there's starting to get to a point for me, if I'm the Raiders, I look at him just being an athlete, and maybe you try to make him an edge. Like, maybe you just allow him to pin his ears back, get north and south, because he's thinking way, way too much. Now, maybe he's just a gunner. Maybe that's all he is. But the Raiders did try to use him. He played 12 total snaps, and besides being an athlete, I can't come up with many inspiring things out of there from Amari Burney. Let's go to number 2 here, Darnay Holmes. He's got to be a loser. Really struggled, I thought, in coverage. Did not do a good job in tackling either. Had 12 total snaps here in this football game, and really got playing time because the Raiders benched Jack Jones for that first quarter due to business decisions. And, speaking of business decisions, I got to give Robert Spillane, I wanted to make this note, I got to give Spillane saying that he thought that a lot of Raiders players yesterday made good business decisions, and I couldn't agree more. I like the fact that the Raiders benched Jack Jones because sometimes you got to hold players accountable, and I respect AP for having the confidence in himself and the confidence in his relationship with Jack, where they had that conversation and it ended up happening. Luckily, it didn't bite the Raiders in the ass, but Darnay Holmes has got to be a loser here. To me, though, the biggest loser, and I don't know how many times I said it yesterday, it's Luke Masterson. And, I've seen a lot of people go into the box scores, and they're like, Luke Masterson, Mitch, how can you say that he played bad? He had 6 tackles. Let me say this right now. Just because a linebacker is getting tackles, and I'm not saying this about Spillane. Spillane is a totally different breed. Just because a linebacker is getting a lot of tackles, that's not always a good thing. Masterson was getting beat left and right, and his coverage grade according to the PFF is a 29.7. His tackling grade was a 27.2, but it was just the time and time again, he was just not in the right situation or not in the right position, and then all of a sudden, you thought that he was going to be there for a play, and the Browns kept on targeting him, and at this point, you cannot afford to start Luke Masterson anymore on this defense. It's just, he's clearly the weakest link out there, and I'm hoping Divine Diablo can come back sooner rather than later. Or you got to see what you got in the rookie Tommy Eichenberg, because Masterson, he don't got it, man. Coming up next here on the show, we'll get into some winners and losers on the offensive side of the football, which I feel like is the position or side that we always talk about here on this show. Before I get into that, though, Game Time is always here. They're always making sure that the nation is a winner. And I love being able to go to Raiders football games. And when you get a big win like that against Cleveland, I hope that a lot of y'all are encouraged to go to the next Raiders home game, which is up against the Pittsburgh Steelers on October, 12th at this point? October 13th. Now, maybe you're like, Mitch, I want to go to Denver. I know there's a lot of Raider fans out in Denver. If you're planning on buying a ticket, download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account, redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's Game Time. Now, a lot of the pictures that you're seeing up on screen are from the Game Time picks, which right now what I did on my phone, and you guys can see it right here, I put in that I'm in Las Vegas because that's most of the people that watch the show. But you can, toggle the city, anything that you want. And then if you click on Game Time picks, it'll give you the best deals for a lot of the events that are going on. So obviously you can see, here's the Raider game. This is the ticket here for the Game Time pick. Here's for this hockey game. I don't know who this rapper is, but quite frankly, it kind of looks like Chugs if he were to totally shave his face, so maybe I'd be into it and watch it. I also love Game Time, though, because of the all-in pricing, not just the Game Time picks, where you can see where these tickets are available in the bowl, and it's highlighted right there what the game is. But then also, when you click into that actual ticket and you climb inside of it, they're like, hey, man, it's a top 1 percentile of ticket prices out there. I like a good deal, and if you like a good deal with all the crazy prices that are going on in Las Vegas, download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CHATSPORTS. That link's available to everybody that watches this show in the comments and in the description of this episode. Let's now go into the winners on the offensive side of the football, and I apologize. I know a lot of people are watching this, and they're like, Mitch, you sound terrible. I do sound terrible, but you know what? I will sound terrible like this every day of the week if it means we get a Raiders win. Let's go to number 5 here on the list. I'm going to go with DJ Turner, and Turner did a lot of good stuff that didn't show up on the stat sheet, and then he did a lot of good stuff on the stat sheet. Nice little 18-yard touchdown run, a little bit of an end around. When Luke Getsy uses these athletes that are legit like 4.3, 4.4 speed athletes, and they make those defenders go east and west all the time, you could tell that Cleveland, as that game went on, they got tired. And when the third quarter happened, you could tell that there was a lot of hands on hips, and for a team that was also dealing with a lot of injuries, DJ Turner showed me that he is an electric player with the ball in his hands. And if it's up to me, I'm figuring out a way to get the ball in that young man's hands a lot more. Also a player maybe even like Trey Tucker. Let's go to number 4. I'm going to go with Brock Bowers. And even though Bowers started this game off with a horrific, and I mean a horrific drop, and when that drop happened after that Browns touchdown, I was like, oh, no, this is going to be one of those games where I'm going to want to pull my hair out. But 2 catches, 19 yards. Mitch, how was Brock Bowers a winner? Well, I'm going to tell you, he was maybe the best run blocker that we had in that game yesterday. And when you look at when he was in the game, the lanes, the alleys that he's able to create, on top of the fact that everything else that Bowers is able to do. I mean, an 89 overall run blocking grade. Like, the Raiders' offensive line did play better, but their offensive line, I thought, also played a lot better because of the play of Brock Bowers and his ability to go out there and run block. Also, the blocking of somebody like a Harrison Bryant, who's coming up here at number 3 for my Raiders' offensive winners. The Raiders, to me, did a really good job of getting both of these guys involved as much as humanly possible. Harrison Bryant played 45 total snaps. Brock Bowers played 48 total snaps. And what they did was they go, okay, our offensive line has been struggling a lot, so how can we do our best to help out our offensive line? Well, we have 2 really good blocking tight ends that are also good athletes that can go out there and wreak a little bit of havoc, and that's what they did. Now, Bryant also had 2 catches for 21 yards, and the style of game that this was, they used their tight ends the exact way that you need to use them. I would have been curious to see how Michael Mayer would do in this matchup because, quite frankly, Harrison Bryant's the better better blocking overall tight end than Michael Mayer is, and we're going to talk about Michael Mayer here coming up in a little bit, but really liked what I saw from Luke Getsy implementing his 2 tight ends and implementing his 2 wide receivers that you haven't heard much about, and that's why I'm going to bring this one up here with Trey Tucker coming in at number 2. He saw 5 catches for 41 yards and, was able to get going a little bit in the running game. I liked how they started to use him, moving him around, and kind of everything that I said about DJ Turner, where when you're able to put the ball in the gut that somebody that's just that athletic, it just opens up eyes a lot. He had a carry for 3 yards. That went in for a touchdown. He had 5 for 41. Teams respect Trey Tucker's speed. And one of the things that I'm hoping that Luke Getsy starts to do a little bit more, because you can clearly see they want to put the ball in his hands and they want him to be electric. But when you don't have a strong-arm quarterback like Gardner, and he's not a strong-arm quarterback, and you throw the ball all the way across the field, you give the ball to Trey, you're putting a lot on him to have something happen. I want to see the Raiders do more end-arounds, figure out ways to put the ball in Trey Tucker's hands, because that guy deserves more targets, that guy deserves more looks. But one of my favorite things that I saw out of Trey was the will and want to go out there and block. Davante Adams is a much better receiver than Trey Tucker. But in running situations, I want Trey Tucker out there laying blocks because that dude is a wrestler. You can see it in his background. He's out there throwing guys around, and he loves doing it. And that's one of the things that this team needs to figure out their identity. If they're going to be a team that's going to be as physical as they want to, you might see Trey Tucker out there laying a little bit more blocks, and maybe Davante comes off the field a little bit more than what we're used to seeing. So I already gave you my biggest winner on the defensive side of the football. What about the biggest winner on the offensive side of the ball? And, you could go a few different directions. I'm not going to lie here. Now, I think where people are going to see this answer, they're going to go, all right, yeah, it's definitely the biggest winner. Didn't have the most opportunities, but did the most with his opportunities. So to me, the biggest winner on offense against the Browns was Alexander Mattison. And only 5 carries, but he had 60 yards. He had a long of 24, and one of the biggest plays of this entire game was when Mattison got a carry on 3rd down and 9. And I know if you watch the show live, if you heard my instant reaction video, I've talked about this play probably 10 times. But legitimately, it's one of the biggest plays of the game. It's 3rd down and 9 out of shotgun, handoff. Alexander Mattison makes one guy miss, breaks another tackle, gets a 1st down. Next play, 18-yard touchdown run by DJ Turner. It's those little plays that don't always show up in the stat sheet, don't always show up on the scoreboard, but when you go back and you look, you're like, holy shit, Alexander Mattison is clearly, and I mean clearly, the best running back that we have on this team. He's doing a good job in pass protection. He's just the right fit for this offense, and when he's out there, you could tell the offense just moves a lot more smoothly with Alexander Mattison out there. The biggest winner, Antonio Pierce said that he deserves more touches. He deserves to be the starting running back, Antonio Pierce. Lock that one in. Now, before we get into the losers on offense, I got to give a shout-out here to our September Bang competition. It came down to the wire. Hell, it came down so close that Bryce B called me last night, and he goes, if I send you 3 bangs right now, can I be the MVP? And I go, nah, man, that's not how it works. You got to do it live. Now, if there's breaking news today, well, then we go back to the September Bang competition. But as it stands right now, if I don't go live today, Jedi Spidey wins our September Bang competition. So, Jedi, you got to hit me up here on Venmo. I'm going to need some information to send you your jersey. Bryce B, Justin Abgen, real talk, man, you guys made this entire month fun. You guys make game day a lot of fun, and I think you show me and everybody what Raider Nation is all about week in and week out, so I got to salute you, man. But congrats to Jedi Spidey. Let's go to the losers on offense. Michael Mayer. But wait, Mitch, Michael Mayer didn't even play in this game. That's why he's a loser here, and he's dealing with personal reasons. I don't want to overly speculate of what exactly is happening. Antonio Pierce was unable to provide any update on Mayer, and I'll talk about it a little bit more tomorrow on the show. But the reason why that I am listing him as a loser is because of how good the Raiders offense played yesterday with Harrison Bryant and Brock Bowers. And if this is going to be a team that wants to use their tight ends to more be blockers and kind of do some of that dirty work, then that's not really Michael Mayer's strength. He lost a little bit of weight this offseason. He's a little bit faster. They want to use him in the right ways. But Mayer, due to the fact of some of the rumors that are going on right now, I got to list him as a loser just because of how well our tight ends played. Let's go to number 2 here. It's Colton Miller. And I don't know what's exactly happening here with Miller, but he's, man, oh man, has he been struggling on that offensive tackle spot. Gave up another sack yesterday, and I get it. He's got a tough assignment to go out there and do, but a 43.2 overall PFF grade, a 37.1 pass blocking grade, a 44.0 run blocking grade. I just don't know if he's not healthy. He's given up more sacks, though, this season already in 4 games than he has since 2019, right? Like, you got to go all the way back to 2019 to find a season where he's given up more than 5 sacks in a year, and Colton Miller is clearly unhealthy and would have been the biggest loser, but probably the most obvious out of all the obvious losers that I've had on this show. It's got to be Zamir White. And somebody yesterday in our live show said, Mitch, you can't call him Zeus anymore. He's just Zamir from here on out. And it's sad because Zamir was running the rock much better and probably was having the best game that he's had all season. And you could see that the momentum started to go. When Zamir would run behind Jackson Powers-Johnson, and let's get one thing straight here, I probably could have put JPJ on this list as a winner because he's clearly, I think he's actually already the best Raiders offensive lineman that we have. He can do a lot of different things. He brings that mentality. You know, AP kind of talked about it today. He's almost like a Max where you got to let him be him, but you also have to try to ring him in a little bit because he gets a little bit carried away and he gets a little bit crazy. Anyway, though, back to Zamir. What's so upsetting is the fumbling issues, and that costly fumble that led to a scoop and score by Cleveland really opened the door and helped the Browns get a lot of momentum. Zamir's not able to run between the tackles the way that we're hoping. I almost think that he might be too bulky to hang on to the football right now. He's clearly not a good fit in this running back system. He's clearly not a good fit in this James Craig system. And Alexander Mattison is just clearly, and I mean clearly, the better running back. Quite frankly, every time Zeus touches the ball, I get nervous just because I don't trust him with the ball in his hand, and the risk compared to the reward when Zamir has it, I just don't see it right now. And I know that they want to try to establish a more competitive running game, but if I'm, Cadillac Williams, if I'm Tom Telesco, if I'm Antonio Pierce Luke Getsy, and I get any say whatsoever in what I can do with that offense, I am looking at it where if I'm dividing my running back touches by 100%, I'm giving Alexander Mattison probably 70% of those touches. I'm going to split between Dylan Laube, Amir Abdullah, Zamir White for the other 30%. I don't want to say, because you might hear 70% and not think that that's a lot. That's quite a bit of touches, though, for a running back for a guy like Alexander Mattison. But we just got to face the facts here. Zeus can't be the starter. This is Alexander Mattison's job from here on out. Now, before I get out of here, man, here's the reasons why you subscribe to the Raiders Report. 1, head coach Antonio Pierce did a good job. Number 2, Luke Getsy made major improvements. Number 3, Patrick Graham. All of these guys right here, they deserve their flowers. They really do. And a game where you didn't have your top 2 studs, Maxx Crosby, Davante Adams. In a game that, you were the underdog. In a game that you got down 10-0. A lot of teams that don't have good head coaches or coaches that players believe in, you get down 10-0, you close up shop, you give up. But this team kept on fighting. And to me, Antonio Pierce, Luke Getsy, and Patrick Graham, you have to consider all of them winners in this game. Every single one of them deserves to be listed as a winner. Now, before I get out of here, I do want to tell you guys about our live schedule this week at the show. I'm going to be live tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Then I'm going to be live for Thursday Night Football, Atlanta versus Tampa Bay. kind of a boring game for us, which kind of just means we can get a little bit crazier on Thursday Night Football. We got a Mario costume, got a Wario costume. Be on the lookout for that one. And then we're going to be live week 5 for the Raiders up against the Denver Broncos. And the Raiders have beaten the Broncos 8 straight times. The last time Denver got a dub against the Raiders, they were called the Oakland Raiders. The last time that the Broncos got a win against the Raiders was December 29th, 2019. I'd like to keep that streak alive. I'd like to keep it going, and we're going to be going live at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you don't have all these on your calendar, put them on there. You can hang out with Jeremy Jugs and I this week here live on the Raiders Report, though he won't be here then. All right, Jeremy here, Cullen here. I'll see you guys tomorrow.